AI judging snowboarding, predicting rugby injuries. Sounds like science fiction, but it's all over the news, and that's what we're diving into today. We've got reports and articles stacked up about the latest AI news, massive investments, new models. It's a lot to unpack, so let's get to it.
Yeah, it really feels like AI is everywhere these days.
Let's start with all these huge investments. OpenAI, Oracle, SoftBank, and MGX are teaming up for a project called the Stargate Project.
The Stargate project.
Yeah. And it's a $500 billion investment in U.S.-based AI infrastructure. Then you've got Google putting another billion into Anthropic.
Anthropic's valuation is going to be enormous. What, 60 billion?
That's right. It's crazy. What do you think is driving all this investment?
I mean, it's a few things coming together at the same time, I think. We've got these big leaps in what AI can actually do.
It seems like every day there's something new.
Exactly. And that means new possibilities for businesses, right? All kinds of industries. Plus the potential for automation. Huge.
Yeah, cutting costs and increasing efficiency. Makes sense.
But it's also a geopolitical thing, you know? Countries are competing to become the leader in AI.
So everyone's trying to grab their piece of the pie.
It's like a gold rush almost. But of course, with all this investment comes concerns too.
Yeah, there have been a lot of articles about regulation and safety.
A lot of questions about how to make sure AI is developed responsibly. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. What about AI agents?
AI agents, I've seen that term popping up more and more. Like Microsoft is changing its AutoGen framework to focus on them.
Right. So think of it this way. Instead of one general AI, you have a team of specialists. Each one is an AI agent.
So an AI agent for financial analysis, another one for scheduling my day, another one for...
Exactly. And these frameworks like LangChain are making it easier to actually build these systems. And they can do some pretty impressive things.
Like what?
There's an AI agent that can actually interact with Git and GitHub, like a pro developer.
Wow. So how is this different from just regular AI? Why is everyone so excited about agents?
It's a game changer for a few reasons. First, reliability. If one agent fails, the others can still keep working.
So it's like a safety net built in.
Right. Then there's control. You can see exactly how each agent is making decisions.
More transparency.
And then scalability. Need more power, just add more agents. Easy.
So could these AI agents actually replace people's jobs?
That's the big question, isn't it? Some jobs might be automated for sure, but I think it's more about empowerment, giving people better tools.
So AI is a collaborator, not a replacement.
Exactly. Now, there's this other really interesting development, this open source AI model called DeepSeek R1.
DeepSeek R1, I read about that. Claims it can match OpenAI's O1, but much cheaper.
Right. And this brings up the whole debate about open source versus closed source AI.
It seems like there are strong arguments on both sides.
Yeah. With open source, you get innovation. Anyone can access and modify the code, but there are concerns about security and quality.
Right. Whereas with closed source, companies like OpenAI have more control, which might mean higher quality but less accessibility.
It's a tough choice. Which model would you go for?
It would depend on the project, right? What I need it to do, how much control I need. And speaking of how AI is being used, let's talk about how it's showing up in everyday life.
It's everywhere, even if we don't realize it.
The UK government is using this AI suite called Humphrey to modernize public services.
That's an interesting one.
And at the X Games, they're using AI to judge snowboarding.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
AI deciding who wins?
And even something as simple as Apple's Mail app is using AI for categorizing emails now.
And analyzing those Twitter bios to figure out what makes people tick. It's incredible.
AI is becoming part of the fabric of our lives.
Absolutely. And it's only going to become more integrated.
Makes you think about what the future holds.
It's an exciting time. And a little bit scary, too.
Yeah, definitely a lot to think about.
Yeah, it's moving fast.
It really is. We've talked about AI and business and everyday life, but what about sports? There are some interesting examples in the news about AI in sports.
The X Games using AI to judge snowboarding is a perfect example. It shows that AI can handle things that require subjective judgment.
Snowboarding. I mean, it's all about style and those tiny nuances.
Yeah.
Can AI really capture all that?
Well, the idea isn't to replace human judges entirely. It's more like giving them an extra tool to make more informed decisions.
So like a second opinion.
Yeah, kind of. The AI analyzes things like how high they're jumping, how complex the tricks are, the overall flow.
So the AI is looking at data.
Exactly. And that can help reduce bias,
Make it more objective.
Right. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see this in other sports, too. Figure skating, gymnastics, things like that.
Yeah, it makes you wonder where else AI will show up. And it's not just about judging either. There was an article about AI predicting injuries in rugby.
Oh yeah, that's a fascinating application. They're using AI to analyze player data, training history, playing style, even things like biometrics.
Wow. And it can actually predict if someone's going to get hurt.
Well, the idea is to identify patterns and risk factors. So yeah, it can predict the likelihood of an injury.
That could be huge for player safety and for team management.
Absolutely. It could revolutionize how teams approach training and injury prevention. Speaking of revolutionizing things, AI's impact on the workforce is a big topic.
Yeah, there's a lot of concern about job losses. A lot of articles about that.
And it's a valid concern, but we have to remember that AI is just a tool. It's not inherently good or bad. It depends how we use it.
It's like any technology. It can be used for good or for bad.
Right. So instead of AI versus humans, it's more about how can we use AI to make things better.
To augment human capabilities.
Exactly. Which might mean retraining people for new kinds of jobs.
Jobs that work alongside AI.
Absolutely. We need to prepare people for the jobs of the future. And who knows what new opportunities will emerge. Things we haven't even thought of yet.
It's hard to even imagine what those jobs might be.
I know it's exciting to think about all the possibilities. But of course, with all this potential comes challenges, especially around ethics.
Yeah, there have been a lot of articles about the ethical implications of AI, algorithmic bias, data privacy, those kinds of things.
And we can't just ignore those concerns. We need to be having these conversations. How do we make sure AI is used responsibly? How do we make sure it aligns with our values as a society?
It seems like the key is finding that balance between innovation and responsibility. Speaking of innovation, this whole idea of AI agents seems to be really taking off.
Yeah, it's a real paradigm shift in how we think about and use AI.
Instead of these big monolithic systems, it's more about specialized AI agents working together.
Right, like a team of experts. Each agent has its own unique skill set.
And we're seeing this in action already. Microsoft with its AutoGen framework.
Yeah.
Platforms like Cline making it easier to build these systems.
And we even saw that AI agent that can interact with code repositories, Git and GitHub, just like a human developer would.
It's incredible how fast this is all moving.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder about the future of work. What happens when AI can do so many things that humans used to do?
It's a question a lot of people are asking. And while some jobs will definitely be automated, I think AI will ultimately create more opportunities than it destroys.
How so?
Well, think about it. If AI can handle those repetitive tasks, those boring tasks, then that frees up humans to focus on more interesting things, things that require creativity and critical thinking.
So it changes the nature of work, not necessarily eliminates it.
Exactly. And that means we need to rethink education and training. How do we equip people for the jobs of the future?
Jobs where they'll be working alongside AI, not competing with it.
Right. AI becomes a collaborator, a powerful tool.
But it requires us to adapt, to learn new things, to keep evolving.
It's a constant learning process, just like the AI itself is constantly evolving. Now let's talk about the UK government's use of AI, this Humphrey system they're using to modernize public services.
It's a pretty ambitious project, using AI to streamline things, improve efficiency, maybe even personalize services.
It sounds great in theory, but there are concerns.
It's like data privacy. And what about algorithmic bias? Could Humphrey end up discriminating against certain groups of people?
Those are valid concerns. And then there's the question of job displacement. What happens to the people who used to do those jobs?
So it's not a simple solution. It comes with its own set of challenges.
It does, and that's why it's so important to have oversight, transparency, make sure the system is being used ethically and responsibly.
It's a lot to think about. And speaking of things that are a lot to think about, there's this new open source AI model, DeepSeek R1.
Ah, yes. DeepSeek R1. It's claiming to be as good as OpenAI's O1, but at a fraction of the cost.
It's a pretty bold claim. But if it's true, it could be a game changer.
Absolutely. It would challenge the dominance of those closed source models, and it could make AI more accessible to a wider range of people.
More developers, more researchers, more startups.
Exactly. It could democratize AI, which is really exciting. But of course, with open source, there are always concerns.
About security.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you ensure quality when anyone can modify the code?
Right. Those are legitimate concerns. And that's why we need things like responsible AI principles and maybe even some new regulations.
To make sure open source AI is used for good, not for harm. Now, we've talked about AI agents interacting with code repositories, but there's another example in the news. an AI agent designed to actually mimic the workflow of developers.
Oh, yeah, that's a fascinating one. It can interact with Git and GitHub, manage code changes, just like a human would.
It's almost like having an AI assistant for coding.
Exactly. And this has huge implications for software development.
It could speed up development cycles, improve code quality, maybe even reduce costs. It's incredible what AI can do these days.
It really is. And this is just the beginning. As AI keeps evolving, we're going to see even more amazing applications emerge, things we can't even imagine right now.
It's both exciting and a little bit overwhelming. All this rapid change. What will the world look like in 5 years, 10 years? It's hard to even fathom.
It is. But one thing's for sure, AI is going to continue to shape our lives in profound ways.
And it's up to us to make sure we're shaping it for the better.
Absolutely. We need to be having these conversations, thinking critically about the ethical implications, and working together to ensure that AI benefits all of humanity.
Well said. Now let's turn our attention to something a little bit different. The use of AI to analyze social media data. There was an interesting article about a literature grad who developed an AI tool to decipher Twitter bios.
Oh, yeah, I read that one. It's amazing what you can learn about someone from just a few words.
Their interests, their values, their personality.
It's like a digital fingerprint, and AI can analyze those fingerprints at a massive scale.
It could be used for marketing, for social science research, all sorts of things.
But it also raises concerns about privacy. Are we comfortable with AI knowing so much about us?
It's a valid question, and it highlights the importance of data security and ethical considerations.
Exactly. As AI gets more powerful, we need to make sure it's not being used to exploit or manipulate people.
We need to be careful, thoughtful. Now let's talk about something that's causing a lot of debate, the increasing use of AI in decision-making.
Ah, yes. AI judges, AI loan officers, AI sentencing guidelines.
It's happening everywhere, and it raises some big questions.
Like, who's accountable if an AI system makes a mistake? Can we trust AI to make fair and impartial decisions?
Especially when it comes to things like criminal justice or access to healthcare.
Right. These are high-stakes decisions, and we need to be very careful about how we're using AI in these contexts.
It seems like there needs to be a lot more research, a lot more discussion before we hand over these important decisions to machines.
I agree. We need to proceed cautiously, make sure we're not creating more problems than we're solving.
Now let's circle back to this concept of AI agents. We've talked about how they're changing the game, but I'm curious to hear more about the technical side of things.
Sure. So one of the key advantages of AI agents is that they're modular.
Modularly.
Yeah, it means you can break down a complex task into smaller pieces and assign each piece to a specialized agent.
So instead of one big AI doing everything, you have a team of smaller AIs working together.
Exactly. And this makes the system more flexible, more robust.
How so?
Well, if one agent fails, the others can keep working, so you don't have a single point of failure. Plus, it's easier to scale. If you need more power, just add more agents.
It sounds like a really efficient approach.
Mm-hmm.
And we're already seeing companies adopting this. Microsoft is revamping its AutoGen framework. And platforms like LangChain are making it easier to build these systems.
It's becoming more and more mainstream, and I think this trend is only going to accelerate.
It's definitely an area to watch,
Yeah.
and we've talked a lot about the potential benefits of AI, but it's also important to acknowledge the risks. What are some of the things that keep you up at night when you think about the future of AI?
Well, one of the biggest concerns is the potential for misuse. AI is a powerful tool, and in the wrong hands, it could be used for harmful purposes.
Like what?
Think about things like autonomous weapon systems or AI-powered surveillance.
Those are scary possibilities.
Yeah.
And it's not just about malicious intent either. There's also the risk of unintended consequences.
Right. AI systems can be unpredictable, they can make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes can have serious repercussions.
So we need to be very careful about how we develop and deploy AI systems.
Absolutely. We need strong ethical guidelines, we need robust testing procedures, and we need to be constantly monitoring these systems to make sure they're behaving as intended.
A lot of responsibility. But it's a responsibility we can't afford to ignore.
I agree. The future of AI depends on us making wise choices.
Now let's talk about something a little bit lighter. The use of AI in sports.
Oh yeah, that's always a fun topic. We've already talked about AI judging in snowboarding, but there are so many other examples.
Like using AI to analyze player performance, or to predict injuries, or even to create personalized training programs.
AI is revolutionizing the way we play and watch sports, and it's making the games more exciting and competitive.
And it's not just professional sports either. We're seeing AI being used at all levels, from youth leagues to the Olympics.
It's really democratizing access to advanced analytics and coaching, and that's a good thing.
It's leveling the playing field. Now let's shift gears and talk about something that's been in the news a lot lately, the use of AI in healthcare.
Ah, yes. AI is transforming healthcare in some really profound ways.
Like how?
Well, for one thing, AI can help doctors diagnose diseases more accurately and earlier.
That's huge. Early detection is key for so many conditions.
Exactly. And AI can also help personalize treatment plans, so patients are getting the most effective care possible.
It sounds like AI is becoming an indispensable tool for doctors and nurses.
It is. But it's important to remember that AI is not a replacement for human judgment. It's a tool to augment human capabilities, not to replace them.
So it's about collaboration, doctors working alongside AI, not AI making decisions on its own.
Right. And it's important to make sure that AI is being used ethically and responsibly in healthcare.
Especially when it comes to things like patient privacy and data security.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about something a little bit more futuristic. The development of artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
AGI, that's the holy grail of AI research, isn't it? Creating an AI that can think and learn like a human.
Exactly. And while we're still a long way from achieving AGI, there have been some promising breakthroughs in recent years.
Like what?
Well, for example, there have been advances in deep learning and reinforcement learning that are allowing AI systems to solve problems in ways that were previously thought to be impossible.
So we're getting closer. But what are the implications of AGI? What happens if we actually succeed in creating an AI that's as intelligent as a human?
That's a question that philosophers and scientists have been debating for decades. Some people believe that AGI could usher in a new era of peace and prosperity. Others fear that it could pose an existential threat to humanity.
It's a topic that raises a lot of ethical and philosophical questions. And it's something that we need to be thinking about very carefully as AI continues to evolve. Now let's wrap things up with a quick look at what's next for AI. What are some of the trends that you're watching?
Well, one trend that I'm really excited about is the increasing focus on explainable AI.
Explainable AI, what's that?
It's the idea that AI systems should be able to explain their decisions to humans in a way that's understandable.
So we're not just blindly trusting the AI, we can actually understand how it's making its decisions.
Exactly. And this is really important for building trust and accountability in AI systems.
It sounds like a crucial step for the future of AI. Any other trends you're keeping an eye on?
Well, another trend is the increasing use of AI at the edge.
At the edge.
It means that AI is being deployed on devices like smartphones and sensors rather than in the cloud.
So AI is becoming more distributed, more decentralized.
Exactly. And this is going to enable all sorts of new applications and possibilities.
It's exciting to think about what the future holds for AI. It feels like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
I agree. It's an incredibly dynamic and rapidly evolving field, and I can't wait to see what the next few years bring.
It feels like we're at this tipping point with AI. So much potential, but also some big risks.
Yeah, it's a powerful technology. We have to be careful.
We talked about the good stuff, but what about the things that worry you? What keeps you up at night?
Well, job displacement is a big one. As AI gets smarter, it can do more and more things that humans used to do.
It's already happening in some industries.
And it's only going to accelerate. So we need to think about how to prepare people for this new reality.
Retraining, upskilling, giving people the tools they need to thrive in a world where AI is everywhere.
Exactly. We can't just leave people behind. And then there's the potential for misuse. AI in the wrong hands could be really dangerous.
Yeah, AI-powered weapons, AI-driven surveillance. It's kind of a dystopian thought.
It is. We need to be having those conversations now, before it's too late. How do we prevent this technology from being used for harm?
Regulation, ethical guidelines, maybe even some kind of global agreement.
It's going to take a lot of work to get it right. And it's not just about malicious intent either.
What do you mean?
AI can make mistakes, just like humans. But the consequences of an AI's mistake could be much more severe.
Especially if we're talking about things like self-driving cars or AI-powered medical diagnosis.
Right. So we need to be incredibly careful about how we design and deploy these systems. We need rigorous testing, redundancy, fail-safes.
And constant monitoring.
Exactly. We can't just set it and forget it.
So much to consider, so many potential pitfalls. But it's hard not to be excited about the possibilities, too.
Oh, absolutely. AI has the potential to solve some of the world's biggest problems.
Climate change, poverty, disease.
We could make incredible progress if we use AI wisely.
It's a powerful tool,
Hmm.
and it's up to us to decide how we're going to use it to shape the future we want.
It's a collective responsibility. Scientists, policymakers, the public. We all have a role to play.
It's been an incredible deep dive,
Mhm.
so much to think about, so much to learn.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. And this is just the beginning. The world of AI is changing so rapidly.
Who knows what the future holds?
It's both exciting and a little bit scary.
Yeah, definitely both. But that's what makes it so fascinating.
It's an incredible time to be alive, to witness this technological revolution unfold.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring the world of AI
Yeah.
and stay curious.